We made it. Puck drop Thursday. It has been forever. This series is the last one to start. My name is Josh Egan. I am the host of the Orient Sportscast. Doing this one alone today. We're going to be joined a little bit later by a guest. But how excited are we Leafs fans for this series to finally get started? And I'm not going to break down the series for you. I'm not going to look at the matchups. I'm not looking at how Matthews is going to play or who the starting goaltender is going to be for the Leafs. This is just going to be a quick 15-20 minute video talking about why we should be excited. This team has been a treat to watch this year, just dominating the North Division, running over it, and now we get to see what they can do in the playoffs where it matters. So here are some reasons why you should be excited for this playoff series. First off, it's Leafs Habs. Name a better hockey rivalry than that. I'll wait. You can't do it, especially from a Leafs fan point of view. I'm 24. I've never seen these two teams play in the playoffs. I'm sure many of you haven't either. It hasn't happened for a long time. When people ask me, like, who's the Leafs' main rival, I want to say the Canadiens, but I kind of have to say the Bruins right now just because of the history they've had in the playoffs. I mean, yeah, the Bruins have beat them 3 times within the last 10 years, but I want to see this rivalry reignited with the Canadiens. I know there used to be some great games, like they would get grimy and dirty and lots of fights. We saw it a little bit back in 2013, 2014, 2015, and then it kind of fizzled out. This is, hopefully it reignites the rivalry. That's what I really want to see coming out of this playoff series. Another thing we should be excited about is, when has a Leafs team been this good? Not in a while, not that I can think of. This team has the talent to go far. They should beat Montreal. They should beat whoever makes it out of the Winnipeg-Edmonton series. And then when you get to the conference final, man, who knows? Hockey's weird. Would I be surprised if Montreal beat the Leafs? Yes, I would be. Would I be disappointed? Extremely. This team needs to go far. They need to make the Final Four. That is my expectation for them. However, that being said, if they do lose, let's not talk about that. There's also one more thing I'm excited for, and there's a section of this Leafs fandom that kind of wants to go back to this days, and that's where Colton Orr was running around the ice, beating people up, stuff like that. I don't think we're going to see quite that in this series, but we are going to see a lot more hits, a lot more physical play, maybe some scrums after the whistle, and I'm okay with that. I think this Leafs team can step up and do it. They don't have to, beat up the Habs, but they do have to be tough enough to beat them, and I think this team is. They can be a sneaky, tough team at times. I just don't think we've seen it this year, and I think we will see it in this series for sure. They're also deeper than Montreal, so hopefully that plays a role. We'll see. I also feel like as a fan base we're missing out. The playoffs have been great so far. That Tampa-Florida series has been amazing. Colorado and St. Louis has been good. A lot of these playoff series are close. Some of them are 2-0. We got ones that are 1-1. It's going to be a fantastic run of playoff games, and I'm kind of jealous we're missing out on the action, and tonight we get started. So we're going to be joined by a very special guest. Oh yeah, that guest is Lepta's Legacy from the Budsallday podcast. No big deal. So, see you on the other side. Let's do it. Go Leafs, go. Told you guys we were going to have a special guest. I won't do it justice, so I'm going to let him introduce himself. Why don't you go ahead?
Hey guys, Lebda's Legacy here from Twitter and the Budsallday podcast. We're a Leafs-based podcast. We specialize in game reactions and, any kind of big events that happen around the Leafs. Getting really, really excited for playoff time. Lots of interesting stuff going to be coming from us. And I'm happy to be on the show right now.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned that you were a reaction-based podcast, like breaking down the games and all that. Do you guys usually stay level-headed, or have you had a couple hot-headed moments this season?
I think I definitely get a little more hot-headed than my co-host there. He tends to, cool me down or stay a little bit more even keel, but there's definitely, ups and downs during the season, and I think we do ride those waves a little bit.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That's why kind of after a bad loss, I put the phone away and don't tweet something dumb, because that can get you in trouble sometimes. Or you look at it the next morning and you're like, oh boy, that was a bad take. But let's look forward, because we are finally starting the playoff race tonight, or the playoffs. It's not a race anymore. We're here. I'm excited. I don't know if my excitement is equal to yours. Like, I've been thinking about this since the last regular season game. I feel like we've been missing out with all the great playoff games going on. What's your feeling there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super, super ready for these playoffs to start. The last almost quarter of the season have just been, dragging on. We kind of knew the Leafs were going to finish at least first place, and we pretty much knew they were going to play the Habs the whole time. So you have that excitement, you're ready for that to go, and then it just drags on, and then the NHL delays the start of the North Division a little bit. We get to see all the great playoff action, and the other divisions go on. So yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing for tonight.
Yeah, I'm more than ready. Like we've seen some great playoff games so far, and we're the last ones to start. Like that really sucks because we usually the Leafs are one of the first teams to start. You kick it off with one of the most popular teams in the NHL. Just to touch on those other playoff series quickly, I'll ask you this, and then we can get back to how excited we are. What's been your favorite series to watch so far?
Well, I mean, that Tampa Florida series has been
Yeah,
mighty entertaining. Just there's a lot of bad blood going around there, and I mean the hockey's been fantastic too. So I think that's been up there for me.
for sure, for sure. So, as Leafs fans, we understand the struggles of this team sometimes. But this year feels a little different. I think we can both agree on that. So going into this series, what feels different and what are you excited about that makes it feel different going against the Canadians?
Yeah, I think me and my co-host have, had this debate on the podcast a lot of times, how all year this Leafs team has been a different team. We know Leafs teams have struggles. Maybe they struggle to keep leads in the third period. Those 2-1 games, they really struggle in. If you look at this Leafs team and the way Kyle Dubas has built the defense for this season, it's just completely different. I'm not, as paranoid or as worried about those 1-goal leads, and I'm not freaking out. If things aren't going quite their way in the first period, I'm like, oh, well, this game's over. Like they seem to have that ability to bounce back and hold leads and stuff like that. So I think definitely the defense is the biggest thing that's different this year.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I also just feel more, and we're gonna find out the answer real quick. I feel more steady at the goaltending. For some reason. With Jack Campbell, I don't know if he's a starter yet. I don't think he's fully proven it. He showed he can step up and take on the role of a starter, but I don't know if he is a full-time starter yet, if that makes any sense. But we're going to find out pretty quickly in game one if he can handle playoff hockey because it is a totally different beast. Do you think he can do it?
Yeah, that's another thing. Like every kind of question Jack Campbell has had him, whether whether he can bounce back from a tough amount of play, whether he can handle a starter's kind of load down the stretch. Every question he's had asked of him, he's answered. And I honestly think he's going to answer this one as well pretty quick. I think he's going to come into the playoffs. He's going to be, the Jack Campbell of the regular season. Maybe his numbers go down a little bit, but I mean, the guy had a .922 save percentage this season. So even if that dips down to, the high teens or whatever, it's still exactly the type of goaltending the Leafs need to at least get past the first 2 rounds. So I really do have some confidence in Jack Campbell going forward for the Leafs.
What's your expectation for this Leafs team in this playoff run?
Expectation is to at least make it to round 3.
Yeah,
I think anything outside of that is honestly a bit of a failure for this team at this point, especially considering who we're going to face in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I think that I can see a storyline here where we run into Edmonton in the second round and McDavid and Draisaitl just decide, okay, this is over, and they do it in 7 games. But even that I would see as a disappointment because you're so much deeper than every other team in this division. And I was just thinking to myself earlier, like once you get to that Final Four, you don't know what's going to happen. Like the Final Four is always a crapshoot, especially this year where you could literally be playing anyone. Like it's gonna be fun. Like your matchup in the conference finals could be tougher than the cup final, just depending how it all pans out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We could play anyone, and honestly, we can beat anyone too. So I think if we do go there, who knows what happens? Maybe we face a team that's a little bit banged up, grinded through a 7-game series, or maybe we're the team that's a little bit banged up and had to grind through, a couple 7-game series. Hopefully not in that case, but you never know what happens. And once you're there, then you just got to win 2 series, whether, you're the better team or not. You just got to win at that point.
Right. So I'll get one more question out of you, and then we can start getting ready for the game because it's in 7 hours. This series is probably going to get physical, and we know the Habs can be a physical team. The Leafs, I don't think we've quite seen how physical they can get. I think they have more in them. Where do you stand on that? Can they out-tough the Habs, keep up with them? Where do you think that stands?
So I think this is like almost a bit of a 2-part question. Can they handle the Habs physicality? I think absolutely. I think that is another thing that is a little bit different about this Leafs team is they have a little bit more of that complementary pieces that can kind of play any style, whether you just want to play a pure fast and skill game. They have that aspect to it. And, if the game gets really clutchy, grabby, a little bit more physical, they brought in the players that can play like that and can excel in that type of play. And then the other part, can they match the physicality? I think they can on, just a level. I hope they don't in a way, because I hope they have the puck more. They're generating more scoring chances, so they don't have that as many opportunities to play as physical as the Habs. But that's another one of those things where the Leafs team's just a little bit different this year, and I'm not as worried about, being able to get hit out of a series like maybe they would have in kind of years past there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. So many questions, no answers yet because we haven't played a game. Where can we find you online? Where can we find your show?
Alrighty, so we're at Budsallday on Twitter. I'm at Lebda's Legacy on Twitter. I'll drop my co-host as well at Sats Mundine on Twitter. That's kind of the best way to get in touch, see what's going on. We live tweet during the games on the podcast website. We keep you up to date with our YouTube, with our podcast, with everything. So that's the best place to find us there.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for coming on. It's going to be super exciting when this game starts, and hopefully we can chat further down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and go Leafs go.
Go Leafs go.